Hey all, this is Crafting Anonymous, and I'm here to show you how you can take a simple little Dollar Tree tray and turn it into something beautiful using mulberry paper and silk stencil transfers. So this is very simple. So once we take the sticker off, which you can use the heat gun to remove, and then some rubbing alcohol or glue remover or anything like that, you just rub it off and get all the sticky out and you're good to go. This tray can be used as a serving tray, and I'll talk to you about the different ways you can do that. You can make it as a leaner, like a shelf leaner, or you can put a hanger on it and then hang it on the wall. It's also going to be something that would be a good gift for a teacher, your own decoration for Christmas, for this one that I'm going to be making, or hostess gift. It's very inexpensive to make. So the first thing I'm doing is using my very favorite base coat, which is a Waverly plaster, and it's a chalk paint. And the reason I like that is it coats really well and it gives it a little texture. So if you put a couple coats on it, you actually have a texture. It does look like plaster. So it adheres to a lot of surfaces, including glass, and then you can apply another layer if you want to do a different color on top of that. So then I've got the silver that's going to be covered, and I'm going to end up drying this and putting 2 coats on. And hey, if you like what you see here, please give me a thumbs up. And if you could also subscribe to this channel by clicking the subscribe button, that'd be awesome. I'll be putting other tips up here of things to do in the crafting world and demonstrations. And I'll also be doing field trips or having special guests and just talking about all different mediums of crafting. So I have a lot of fun with this. I'm retired, and it's a passion I have, and I love to go and take things that you find in thrift stores or garage sales and flea markets and things like that and turn them into something different or give it new life. In this case, I'm just doing a tray that I bought, but it was very inexpensive, $1.25. So hey, you can't beat that. So I am putting that second coat on here right now, and it is because I'm going to be using mulberry paper with a download that I did, and it's going to be Christmas. But you can take this, you can go to the free downloads on the internet, pick any picture you want, and if you have a LaserJet printer, you go ahead and run that mulberry paper through it and print that picture on it. And so you could even take any of your own personal pictures, which I'm going to be doing. I like to play with photography, so I'm going to take some of the pictures that I've done, and I'm going to print those on mulberry paper or rice paper and use those in some of my projects. So I'm just drying this up, and you can see that second coat really did the trick, right? You see how that goes? And so if you wanted to, instead of a second coat of the plaster, you could have used another color of something. But when I'm using mulberry paper or napkins or rice paper, I like having the lighter color in the background, because what that does is it really makes the image that you're putting on it pop. Excuse me. So now that was, there we go. So there's the image that I have, and that was a free download. And as long as I'm not selling the image, like selling paper, the images on the mulberry paper, selling those direct, but I'm using the image in a project, and so then I can use that. If I were going to sell it, I could still use that because I'm not selling the actual image. And so what I'm putting is Mod Podge on there. So you can use, to adhere it, Mod Podge. You can use a white glue, or you can use polyacrylic. I use all 3 of those. I tend to lately been going more into the polyacrylic, which is really, I like it. So it kind of goes through and seals at the same time. But anyway, in this case, I'm using Mod Podge, which they have all different things that you can, different types of Mod Podge, and this is just a matte finish. So I am just getting that through and just rubbing it down. Now you don't want to rub too hard. If you rub too hard, you're going to rub right through the paper. Even though mulberry paper and rice paper is a little more durable than a napkin, you still can rub a hole in it. So you be really careful. And you just want to make sure you press it all down, get all the little, make sure there's no bubbles. And you tend to have less wrinkles when you use rice paper or mulberry paper than if you had a napkin. But I showed in another video previous using a napkin, so you can go and check that out and see the difference. So now I have this handy dandy water pen, which you could just use a brush with water, but this water pen is just another one of my little toys in my crafting arsenal. And if you fill that up, use distilled water, because distilled water, you can let it stay in the water pen, but and it won't get bacteria in it. But if you use tap water, you're going to end up having an issue. So what I'm doing now is, once I got that down, I'm using an emery board. So you can use sandpaper, emery board, just to rub it off. And you rub it in one direction. It's kind of hard to see in this fast forward motion, but I'm just rubbing it towards me to get it off. And then it tears it really nicely. And this tray has little designs on it on the edges. There's little circles. And so I like those. So what I did was, I saw when I was sanding it that the silver popped through. And so I went ahead and went around the whole tray, because I just want to expose those little silver beads. It's just a imprint, a little ball imprint. So I'm trying to expose them while I'm removing the excess mulberry paper, because I really like that. It gives it a nice little look. You could also have gone around the edges with a rub and buff to give it a little, design, little aging if you wanted to, or even just use your finger on some different color of paint and then rub it around there, and that would have kind of made it pop. Excuse me. So I'm going around sanding a little more, and just because I really want it to look, I really like those little silver dots. It's hard to see on there, but that does look really nice. And now I'm just touching up with paint some of the area that excess that got sanded, just to make sure all the edges are complete. That's just looking really nice so far. You could just leave it like that. You could take a resin and plop, resin comes in 2 bottles, A and B, and you mix equal parts of it and stir it up really well. And you could pour that in the tray and use that as a serving tray if you wanted to. But I'm going to use it as a hanger, so I'm not quite into doing that part yet. So now I had this little truck that I got, and I thought, I could paint that up and make it a little truck and put some little trees in the back of it, like it's going through the woods. But then I thought, it doesn't really match the style of the trees. It's too rusticy looking, and the trees with the cardinal are not. So then I'm looking for stencils, some transfers to use. There's silk screen transfers, so I'm looking at which one maybe I can fill in some of that that white space to give it some pop. So I've got a lot of little Christmas ones, so that's what I'm looking for. So as you can see, I've got plenty, but I just really can't find one that's really going to match it well. So kind of narrowing it down a little bit. I think it's kind of bad when you have too many choices, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So what I'm doing is, I found this one. It's got a little snowman, a little squirrel next to him, and a lamppost and a Christmas tree, and a star. So I thought, well, that'll look good. I'll do that. So, and then that other one with the trees, don't get excited. I'm not going to use those trees. I know they don't go well with it. But on the bottom below it, it says Merry Christmas. So I thought, well, I can say Merry Christmas, and then I can have that other area to fill in the void. Now, when you're working with transfers, you want to put a wax base before you put the transfer on it. And that's because it helps it stick, the paint stick to the tray better, or whatever you're using. And it helps it release from the transfer, so the paint doesn't pull off. If you don't use that, you are likely to have the paint pull off, and you're going to have some little not as good of a result. So I'm using black on here because I thought here to match the rest of the trees, to give it that black look. And you just use just enough, because if you want to be able to and don't rub hard. If you rub hard, you're going to push it through and you're going to have bleed. So you just rub hard enough, and you want to make sure you just use enough. Otherwise, you're going to have puddling if you put too much of the paint on it. So before I do that, I need to make sure that I dry. I'm trying to figure out, do I want the words up on top or on the bottom? So I think it's going to look best to fill that space on the bottom. So I'm drying it with my heat tool first, the paint. And it dries pretty fast because you don't use much of it. And then I'm rubbing down, make sure there's no bubbles behind the words. And I'm going to use red, since we have the red with the cardinal. Just give it a little more red, a little more Christmassy feel. But again, you could do this with any napkin, anything. It doesn't have to be Christmas. It just so happens I'm doing Christmas. But you can use these trays for anything. Anything you want. If you were doing like a bridal shower or a baby shower and you had a really special napkin for that, you could use that on a tray or a piece of wood or something. That's another thing. So that Merry Christmas looks really good down there, don't you think? And I'm just filling in the little spots where it tore, where some of the paint came up. And so I'm just filling it in. Sometimes it looks good. You can just leave it that way, that it looks a little distressed. It's a nice look to where there's a little gaps in some of the lettering. But in this one, I wanted to fill it in nicely. Again, this is Crafting Anonymous that you're watching. And hey, if you want to share this out, tell your friends about it. I hope you're liking what you're seeing. You can also subscribe, hit the subscribe button. I appreciate it. And come back and check out some of the other videos. And I look forward to sharing some other things with you. So I took a little brush, and there were little balls on the tree. So I filled those in for Christmas ornaments, Christmas bulbs. And I accidentally got some paint on there, so you can see my boo-boos. So I got some red paint on there, which is not good. So what I am going to do is I can take another image that I happen to have another one, and so I can just remove some of that because it's still wet. So I'm just scraping it off, and I can just find the same piece on the other image, just cut it out, and then just put it over there, and it blends really well. So it's very easy to fix your mistakes on when you're doing napkins or rice paper. See that? You can't even tell. Looks really good. Very easy. Whew, thank goodness, right? So I have to be more careful because sometimes I get a little sloppy. So you got to be really careful. So I got that done, and I need to seal it. But before I seal it, I think I'm going to put some diamond dust on it. So what you do is I have some 3M adhesive glue, and I'm just spraying that on the tray, and then I'm sprinkling the diamond dust on there and shaking it around and removing the excess, and I'm putting a little bit on the, just shaking it around. And first I was just going to do the top, and then I decided to do the whole thing. So I'm spraying some more of that down on the bottom and just shaking it around. And boy, does that just give it a beautiful look. It's not glitter, it's actual glass, diamond dust. So I'm removing it from the bird because I think I want the bird to pop through, but it doesn't really look good, so I went ahead and put it back on. So there you go, that's what it looks like. So then I'll spray it later, and we're done. Thank you.